What is up, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Somewhat Sports Podcast. My name is Chris, and it's a great episode. It's a tremendous episode because it's only two of us this week. It's me and Jurg. We got rid of the trash. We sent the rat to the West Coast. Jurg. Dame is in California. In the woods. No, I can't. I can't cut ass because he got me a wand from the Harry Potter amusement park in California. So Dame is just somewhat of a joke. We kind of miss you, I guess. Jurg more so than me. But yeah, it's just me and Jurg this week. Jurg, how are we this week?
I'm doing good. I was going to say, Dame is on the sunny West Coast, and you and me are in the dreary-ass East Coast.
Yeah.
I'm actually, once again, I'm back at NYC for an episode, so yay. One of these times, it'll finally align where I can see Chris and Dame on one of my NYC visits. It's going to happen. We're going to one day do an episode where it's just the three of us in one room, just cutting ass. I'm putting it out there. That episode will happen. I don't know when, but it's going to happen. But no, I'm good, brother. The weather might be dog shit outside. Dame is enjoying his life in Cali. Miss you, Dame. But you know what? I'm feeling good. Just good vibe, good energies today. I don't have to deal with anything in regards to the Masters, which I would probably fall asleep at work if I had to. But most importantly, and this is the part I'm most excited for, is that in 1 week's time, the 2022 Somewhat Sports NFL Round 1 mock draft is occurring. I'm super excited for that. We're going to be posting that on, updates about that on our story, on Instagram. I'll remind people what our picks are. It's just going to be a fun time. Mock draft season is always fun. We have to do it a little bit different because we always want to put stuff out on the show. So it's only going to be one mock like last year. And I just think we're going to have a grand old time. We're going to, put our collective thinking caps together and come up with picks, come up with selections for all 32 picks in this year. Not 32 teams, though, because we know a lot of teams, Chris. We know a lot of teams had multiple first rounders. And a trade happened this week, Chris. That's going to, get things going here pretty soon. What we're going to talk about. Two teams, made an interesting deal when it comes to draft day. So that affects our mock as well.
Masterful segue. A master class in segues. Masters in segues. Jurg has to cover the Masters next. I don't know. I'm just spitballing it. Okay. Yes. Before we get onto that, beautiful segue, the next week is our main event draft. That gets views, Jurg. That gets views. I think that was our most viewed.
If you combine the two parts, because we have to make it two
Which
parts.
I do. I combine them.
If you combine it, it's our most highly viewed thing on the channel. We appreciate everyone that did view last year. And I think this year, I don't want to oversell here, Chris. But I really think this year it's going to be even better. No, I will say this. No Bars this year, sadly. Bars is unable to make the mock.
Bars hates us.
We do have a couple other guys coming on, though, and I'm really excited for the two of them to join us. My friend, as you said last week, Justin's a super great guy. He's an amazing football mind. I love chopping up football with him. I've done some work with him actually recently. He's just getting into podcasting, and I've had the pleasure of hosting his first couple episodes, and I gotta tell you, he is a gem, to say the very least. Justin's awesome. He's also a Jets fan,
Let's go.
So, I got 3 Jets fans that are going to be harping on me for my 4th overall selection in this draft. And then, like we teased last week, I'm not going to reveal his identity yet. You will all see who this amazing man is next week. But Professor X, as we called him, is a close compatriot of mine who I've done shows with. Again, another great football mind. And same thing, just super informative. For anyone that actually has specifically listened to a lot of the stuff that I've done, this is the hint. He's a quarterback guru, and that's all I'm going to say.
Oof, that's a lot of hype. It's a lot of build up right there. But I'm sure they'll both deliver. Jurg, if you put in the word for them, I trust you, so I probably trust them. It's just how it is here in Somewhat Sports. We trust our
we trust our compatriots and companions.
Yes, I didn't. It was something with a C, but we trust our boys here at the Somewhat Sports family.
Next week, by the way, I'm not going to spoil it because people will see next week. But we got some special things happening for next week's episode as well. So that's really what I'm excited.
All right. Just news without Dame. That's how it is here. All right, but let's not waste any more time lollygagging, if that's the correct term. Like Jurg said, a trade occurred in the NFL world regarding the NFL draft next week.
To break it down most simply, the New Orleans Saints got 2 first-round picks in this year's draft. They got the 16th overall and the 19th overall picks, and they also got the 194th overall pick in this draft, which is a six-rounder. So all the picks that New Orleans got back are this year's draft. What they sent back to the Eagles is the 18th overall pick next year. 18th overall pick this year, third round pick this year, seventh round pick next year, a first round pick in next year's draft, and a second round pick in the 2024 draft. So a lot of draft pick movement here between both sides, Chris. It's a very complicated deal, and definitely one that left a lot of people that know football kind of scratching their heads. Typically, Chris, I know you throw it over to me and Dame first. I
Mhm.
want you to like kind of take the reins first on this, because it's very rare. Like we're used to draft day trades, but I feel like it's very rare for this caliber of a trade involving this many current first round picks to happen. What was your just general reaction when you saw it?
Confused, like most people, I think. I think for the Eagles, they're trying to like gain draft capital for future drafts as well. I don't know. I feel like I guess what this says is that the Eagles aren't in love with a particular someone in this draft. They don't really have someone that they're eyeing completely that they're head over heels for. So I thought, I mean, they thought that it might as well just gain some capital out of it, which I kind of get. And again, like even though I thought they could have traded up, they could still with the amount of picks they got from the Saints. I still think they're eligible to make a trade whenever they can. Um, so that yeah, I think like this is basically them saying like, yeah, we don't really have someone that we love in this draft, but we might as well stockpile some assets, for any potential future trades. Yeah, but in terms of the Saints, this one I think this one's a little interesting because I think this is where the interest kind of like begins because I think the
Mhm.
Saints are gonna kind of I'm assuming they're looking at a quarterback because I believe Winston's out till maybe the middle of the season. I don't necessarily know the exact timetable, but they get two first rounders this year. The Saints are kind of a weird position because they're not. I feel like they're too good to rebuild, but they're not good enough to like kind of, get far into the playoffs.
Right.
I don't even know if they're a playoff team right now.
Right.
Yeah, they're currently without a quarterback. They lost Marcus Williams. That's huge. So I do think with these two picks, number 16 and 19, they could fill in some gaps. I kind of see the logic behind it for both teams. The Saints are clearly trying to make moves now. The Eagles are trying to stay flexible in terms of having assets to make a trade. Whenever a trade possibility pops up. So I kind of get the move for both. But again, I do think the Eagles could have gotten something better because now I also think the Saints could be in the position the Eagles are in, where they could just trade up as well. So number 19, number 16, number 19, and for example, if one of the quarterbacks are there, Willis, if Matt Corral is available as well, they could just kind of trade these two and just snatch up to get them. So I do think the Saints are in a good position to kind of get someone that they might like in this draft. And for the Eagles, again, flexibility is they had it before and they have it now. It's just that they might have to wait a little bit longer. But yeah, I get it for both. Just a little bit of a head scratch at first. But I kind of as soon as I got into the details, I'm like, okay, this kind of makes sense. What
Right.
about you?
So a lot of the same thoughts. So I'm going to attack it just like you did. I'm going to go with the Eagles' perspective first and the Saints' side, because I think the Saints, like you said, I think unequivocally the Saints part is the most interesting, because there are, I think, two different ways that they could go about this. Let me start with the Eagles. So part of the reason why that they did this deal is because, remember, they had 3 first-round picks going into this draft. What does 3 first-round picks mean? Yes, that means you get 3 cheap contracts right now to help supplement your roster, 3 talented players now, but that also means in 3 years time, in 4 years time, actually no, in 3 years time, you're going to have to make the decision on 3 different players if you want to pick up their 5th-year options. And 5th-year options have how much they cost. It depends on accolades that the player has gotten, playing time, stats, etc. For example, Jordan Love, if the Packers decide to pick up his 5th-year option after this upcoming season, his 5th-year option as a quarterback is actually not going to be as expensive compared to most other QBs because he hasn't played a lot. He doesn't have a lot of stats. He doesn't have a lot of personal accolades. So the number calculator on Jordan Love's 5th-year option is going to be significantly lower compared to guys like a Baker Mayfield, to other quarterbacks in the past who have got that 5th-year picked up. And the difference is that usually when these QBs get that option picked up, teams are more than willing to try to extend them right away. That's usually what the idea is. Pick up the option, extend the guy. For the Eagles in this case, it'd be three different players that they have to make that decision for, and that means three different contract extensions that they would need to try to work on at the same time. That's a lot of, different things up in the air for a franchise that, yes, I understand that they made the playoffs this year, but I think we need to put in a little bit more context how they got into the playoffs. If we go to just mid-November of the season, and this is how they finished out the year. I'm going to go to mid-November. I don't have the week number on me. I'm just going to say from November 14th. They beat the Broncos. Next week, they beat the Saints, ironically enough. Week after, they lost to the Giants in a super low-scoring game. Week after, they beat the Jets. Week after, they beat Washington. Week after that, they beat the Giants. Week after that, they beat Washington again. And the week after that, they got smacked by the Cowboys before they made the playoffs, and they got smacked by the Buccaneers. Do you notice something when you hear the end of the regular season? They beat bad teams. That's the only reason why they made the playoffs. And I understand, and I, for one, in the NFL, I'm definitely someone who likes to think like, look, at the end of the day, you just face who's in front of you. But I can also take the other side of, yeah, they did take advantage of that. That's why they got in the playoffs. The NFC, the bottom part of the NFC was pretty weak. The Minnesota Vikings were a disappointment all year. The 49ers and the Saints were relatively inconsistent. They both still had a chance. But remember, the Eagles, I think, were the 6th seed. The 49ers were the very last team. So it's like, when all things are considered there, it's a very precarious situation to look at this Eagles team and assume that they are 3 first-round picks away from making a difference. Would those 3 firsts have definitely helped? Yes, but I think what they saw here is a chance to really make an impact in future years. I think, to your point, Chris, I don't think there's anyone in this draft that they're necessarily falling in love with. I think they still wanted the value of having multiple first-round picks, but they didn't want to deal with 3 because I'm telling you, a couple years down the line, it's 3 different players they have to worry about contract-wise, and I don't think they want that headache. So I think that was the number one reason why they did that, to coincide with the fact that I don't think there's anyone in this draft that they necessarily want to trade up for now. Now, it could change as we get into the draft, and hey, they still have their other first-round pick. So they can still, in theory, package 2 first-round picks to move up in the draft, and they got some extra draft picks as well for a trade this year if they so choose. But I think, to your point, Chris, and I can kind of equate this. This is actually funny, and this is where I get to bring in hockey to the show this week. Au contraire, Monfer, if you thought there was not going to be a hockey mention, you're goddamn wrong. This year's NHL draft is a decent draft, Chris. There are some solid players in this draft. But the 2023 class has a crown jewel that we haven't seen since Connor McDavid in terms of prospect hype. And funny enough, his first name is actually Connor. Connor Bedard is the top overall selection projected in the 2023 NHL draft class. When I'm telling you that teams are going to tank for this kid as if their lives depended on it next NHL season, they will. I'm saying this because my Blackhawks better tank for this goddamn kid, which means we better not get our I don't want us to keep our first round pick this year because I want us to have our goddamn first round pick next year. So please, Chicago, please, lottery gods, please, NHL, do something right and don't screw over my team. Now, bitter fandom aside, like, Connor Bedard is going to be highly valued and teams are going to just tank for him next year. This upcoming draft class has a couple prizes in it. It has old buddy from Alabama in Bryce Young, and old buddy from Ohio State, CJ Stroud. Those are the top 2 guys. And there's always 1 or 2 more quarterbacks that are going to pop off the scene. I think the kid from USC is getting some hype. I'm sure a kid from what conference is it? Another kid in the SEC is going to have a big year. Like, quarterbacks are going to, either go up or go down. I think for the most part, everyone agrees next year is the Bryce Young and CJ Stroud draft, and then 3, 4, and 5 can be filled in as need be. With that, teams are trying to prepare for the case where they can trade up next year if they want to hit the reset button at quarterback. And I think the Philadelphia Eagles did this move because while they could say as much as they want that they were impressed with Jalen Hurts and they want to continue to progress with Jalen Hurts, you're telling me that next year they could get a chance if they move up into the top 2, top 3, depending on, if anyone else in another position becomes super valuable, is that they could get one of the top quarterbacks in next year's draft and reset the rookie quarterback contract for that team. Like, they're going to do that. A lot of teams are going to do that. We were talking about the Dolphins with the Tyreek Hill deal, that if Tua doesn't work out this year, they still have the draft capital in future drafts to be able to get a top pick in next year in 2023. And so I think the Eagles are pulling off a deal here where they're going to add more talent to the roster, but it doesn't necessarily need to be for Jalen Hurts. It can be for the next quarterback if that's what the mindset is. So I'm not surprised at all that the Eagles did this deal because they get that over their first round pick this year still. They get a first round pick next year. They get a second round pick a couple drafts down the line. It takes a lot to get top picks nowadays. Like in draft pick calculators, the top 3 to 5 picks are the most valuable. It takes the most to trade for those, obviously. Then 6 through 10. Everything once you start getting out of the top 10 or the top half of a draft, those picks start to lose value at a precipitous rate. So I'm not surprised that these teams are going to start gearing up draft wise, because in a quarterback draft class where I think a lot of teams are going to need a quarterback next year, like, it's going to take heaven and earth to get a pick. Because let's just look at it on paper, Chris, on teams that could potentially need a quarterback next season. If you just go down the line, um, who knows what happens in Vegas if they end up keeping Derek Carr? Pittsburgh may need a new quarterback. Miami could need a new quarterback. Cleveland could. Well, no, Cleveland has Deshaun Watson. Excuse me. The New York Jets, if they really give up on Zach Wilson quickly, the Houston Texans could need a new quarterback. If Aaron Rodgers actually ends up leaving, maybe Green Bay would be in the market. Who knows with Tampa Bay and Brady? That's a whole deal. The Philadelphia Eagles, the New Orleans Saints, the Minnesota Vikings with Kirk Cousins, Washington football team. Let's be real. Do you really trust Carson Wentz? The Seattle Seahawks, the Atlanta Falcons, the Carolina Panthers, the New York Giants, the Detroit Lions. I understand that some of those teams could draft a quarterback this year, but I don't think in any way, shape, or form does that mean it takes them out of the market next year. If we are just looking on paper for this year, nearly a third of the teams in the league could be in the market for one of the top 2 QBs next year. We're talking about the arms race in the AFC West this past offseason. There's also an arms race amongst the bad teams to make sure they have plenty of draft picks that they can wheel and deal to get those top picks next year. CJ Stroud and Bryce Young are likely not going to go to the team that ends up getting the lottery picks properly unless they need a quarterback. There's going to be a trade in the top 2, top 3 next year. I can almost guarantee it, because teams, they'll either want the quarterbacks badly and they already get the pick there, or they want to trade up for the quarterback that badly. So I think it's going to be hyper interesting, and that's why the Eagles made this deal, because they want to try to be players in next year's draft if they can be, because it's Bryce Young, it's CJ Stroud, and then if anyone else pops off, that just means it's more quarterbacks to trade for. So this is yet another lesson, kids, that despite what we have seen in the NFL at times, quarterback is always going to be the position that teams will trade the most to get. Guaranteed, especially young quarterbacks. So that's why the Eagles did their thing. For the New Orleans Saints, I do kind of like your theory, Chris, that what they could be doing is trying to get one of the quarterbacks this year. But I don't think that's the case. I think the thing is that because the New Orleans Saints have been through absolute cap hell, let's be real here, it's not even purgatory. They're essentially in the lowest ring of Dante's Inferno when it has come to the salary cap situation the last couple years. So the way that you are able to get past this is that you need to have draft picks and get these guys in on cheap deals for a while. So I think that's why they wanted multiple first round picks this year. I know they could go for a quarterback, but I don't think a rookie quarterback is in a good place with this team. They lost their starting left tackle. That offensive line as a whole is solid for the most part, but losing your left tackle is such a blow. They lost some pieces on defense. There is no wide receiver 2 on this team. There technically are other wide receivers, but Michael Thomas is the guy, and then everyone else is just a placeholder. Running back Alvin Kamara, he's had some off the field incidents, so who knows what's going to happen with him. I'm not saying there's not a running back in the first round worthy this year, unlike last year, but like there are so many roster holes on this team that I would see them going the Detroit Lions way of they're going to try to set up their team for the next quarterback down the line, no matter who that might be. So that's why I think the Saints made this deal, getting those 2 first round picks that they could use. There's some really good offensive linemen in this draft class. I think I was creating my not my mock draft list per se, but I was just getting my prospect list together, Chris. There are a lot of tackles and guards who could go in the first round in this year's class.
Oh yeah.
And we had a lot of guys projected last year too. If I remember correctly in our mock, I want to say we had 8 tackles going in the first round. Like, I don't think it's going to be 8 tackles themselves going in this first round, but I think a lot of offensive linemen are going to go. You have a first round center, you got at least 4 or 5 offensive tackles, and I think there are 2 guards in this first round as well that I think a lot of people are projecting maybe early second round picks, but I wouldn't be shocked if these guys go in the late first round. So I think you consider all this, that the Saints just need to pool. They need quantity right now because they need to fill up that roster with cheaper contracts. Because I don't know why the hell they signed Taysom Hill to his deal. his deal is so weird. I don't know when the earliest chance that they could get rid of him is, that it wouldn't cost them a lot, but his deal is super weird. You're paying Kamara, you're paying Thomas, you're paying Marshawn Lattimore. I'm not saying those players aren't worth it, but they got a lot of big cap hits right now, and they need to fill this roster up with cheaper pieces. So I think they're just going to go with the temporary quarterback route for now, and they're just going to have to suffice with it. I mean, hey, Chris, I know they don't have like a real great quarterback on the roster, but they got day one starter Andy Dalton per Chicago Bears Twitter. They got Andy Dalton on that team. You know, they'll be just fine with all their placeholders next season.
Placeholders FC, man. That's how it is. How it be. Yeah. I think next year's quarterback class, like you said, it's going to be strong. So it's going to be very interesting to see what teams do.
I mean, if you want an early thing, I just said the top two off the bat, but I'm
Yeah.
like just to list off a couple names of who people are projecting could be pretty good next year. But there's Anthony Richardson out of Florida that some people think could end up being good if he has a big year. Will Levis out of Kentucky. There's a kid out of Boston College. He's right now he could be in a second or third rounder, but if he has a big year, there are just quarterbacks. The kid out of Clemson, DJ. I'm not even gonna try his last name. DJ Ungalele. That there's my attempt. Like if he has a big year, if he can put it together, maybe him. Spencer Rattler could build himself
Oh,
up with a big
fuck
year at
that,
South
bro.
Carolina. No, I'm just saying, like this quarterback class is so dynamic because we have the top two guys, but we don't know where everyone else will slot. Like next year could be just a 2 QB class, or
Yeah.
next year could be a 4 QB class, depending on how some of these kids pop off. Like, and that's why everyone wants to prepare, because I'm telling you, first round picks next year, like they will be supremely valuable. This year was the year that teams tried to make the playoffs. Next year's the year that everyone's trying to miss the playoffs.
Yeah, I'm glad that the Rams philosophy hasn't like spread across the league as much as it has like recently. The Rams has a lot of people thinking, fuck draft picks, but I don't know, man. There's a lot of teams that are like it's easier for the Rams to do that because they were so close to winning it all.
Right.
They're on the threshold of winning championships. But you have a lot of poverty teams in the NFL, man. So
They're supremely smart with the way they've done it. Like
yeah.
the thing is that you had the pieces there who are game breakers outside of quarterback. Like you can only do this if you have those guys. Like these teams, a lot of teams don't have an Aaron Donald or Jalen Ramsey, or
Yeah.
they can't. They're not good enough to make the space to be able to entice an Allen Robinson or a Bobby Wagner. And by the way, they got Matthew Stafford, and they were able to get Von Miller. Like it takes a specific intelligence and a goodness at your job, let's say, to be able to do that. A lot of teams just aren't that. The Saints are. Like we don't give it a lot of credit. I think we give credit, but I don't think the GM Snead and Sean McVay, the head coach, I don't think they've really been given their due credit properly, because to go the philosophy they have and to get the Super Bowl, like that's it. I don't care if they don't win another one. They have the Super Bowl. They are forever etched as champions in the NFL. It doesn't matter what they did to the team in the future. Like this is they reached the end game.
Yeah, they have. They have. So it's. I'm glad that some teams, if they are thinking the way you're saying, Jerry, if they're thinking the way you're thinking in terms of just like, let's not give up our picks for next year. I'm kind of glad that's happening because it means like teams are self-aware. Like, yo, we're not at that level yet. Let's move on over to what do we got next, Jerg?
Well, we're gonna stick with the NFL for a little bit, only because some more interesting rumors have come out. This has been the offseason of the transaction more than free agency, and it's been the offseason of the wide receiver transaction, Chris. And
Mm.
for some reason, within the last week or so, a couple wide receivers' names have been brought up in potential rumors as to maybe being moved for one reason or another. And those two guys were DK Metcalf and AJ Brown. I'm gonna be completely real with you here, Chris, because I don't really have too much to say in terms of AJ Brown. I
Mm-hmm.
don't understand why it would even be mentioned his name. I don't know what's going on in Tennessee. I don't know if it was just a BS rumor that someone wanted to start, but AJ
Well,
Brown should not be traded.
is he? No. So I agree with you that like you don't trade AJ Brown, but what's his contract situation?
I want to say he has 2 more years. Let me double check
I'll
that
go. I'll go on
again.
spell track. You keep going. You keep going.
Yeah, so the thing is that because this has been the off season of the wide receivers being paid, is bringing up a lot of guys. I myself have
Mm.
been one to point out, like when Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson, when it's time for them to get paid, whew, Oh my God, quarterback money is going to be given to those two, especially. You look at Cooper Cup. He's on a second contract, but when that deal comes up, he's going to get paid. Heck, I'm not surprised. I would not be surprised if during this season or next offseason, Cooper Cup's agent is like, excuse me, can my guy get paid here?
And I'm pretty
Like,
sure the Rams will pay him.
oh yeah, they have to. They have to. They have to. So like it's really an interesting time for these guys. And the reason why DK and AJ I think have been brought up is because those are like two of the big names coming up next as to like who could get paid. And AJ Brown, I could see making an argument if he has another big year. I don't see the argument for DK Metcalf. I'm sorry. Like,
For money?
yeah, he should not get Tyreek Hill, Devontae Adams money. No,
Oh,
he does
yeah.
not deserve that in any way, shape, or form. Like, yes, I. This is when people try to box me in, and this is why I always say I can go multiple ways. I firmly want every player to get paid. I want every single guy that goes into professional sports to get their money. Chase the bag, secure the bag. But on a pure perspective, you cannot tell me that DK Metcalf has made the same impact in Seattle as Tyreek Hill did for the Kansas City Chiefs offense or that Devontae Adams eventually did for the Green Bay Packers. You just can't. Like, DK Metcalf is not that. He's the same guy who in a playoff game against the Rams a couple years ago had 2 receptions for 18 yards and just got absolutely shut down. Like, no, I'm not going to pay Devontae Adams money to a guy who does that to me in a playoff game. I'm just not. So I don't think. Look, I understand when he dropped in his draft, and people were shocked that he dropped out of the first round. And I think it ultimately was a mistake because I think he's proven that he probably should have been a first round pick in his draft. I firmly agree with that. I think he's been a pretty good wide receiver, but I don't think DK has proven to be that real game breaker that these guys have. Tyreek Hill has a game breaking quality of him. Devontae Adams has a game breaking quality. Justin Jefferson and Jamar Chase have that. AJ Brown, I think, has shown more glimpses of it than DK. I don't think DK has. So if Seattle's options are we have to pay him money, or we have to trade him, I'm trading him then. I'll gladly do it.
So I'm looking at it now. Metcalf and Brown are both unrestricted free agents next offseason.
Really? Okay, so
Yeah.
I thought AJ Brown had one more year left.
No, no, no. So
Like,
I
oh,
think
wow.
they're at a position where it's so I think the AJ Brown one is interesting because I think like you, Jurg, a lot of people, including myself, thought, why would the Titans trade AJ Brown? Like that's their star wide receiver, that's their guy. Oh, I mean, I thought they had another wide receiver, but they have Derrick Henry, which is important as well. But it's just like that's their guy, that's their wide receiver one. I think I don't know what the cap situation is for Tennessee, but they do have Ryan Tannehill on a contract. They re-signed Derrick Henry, and they're gonna have to pay AJ Brown eventually.
Right.
I don't know, Jurg, is it like a cap hell situation similar to the Saints? Would that be the reason why,
I
or
don't
should they
think
go the route of just like let's accumulate some draft picks so we can kind of start over again a bit? But like when you're that close to winning, because I do think the Titans, we hate to admit it, but like they are a playoff team.
yeah.
Do you want to like go that route if you're that close to winning? Do you like want to reset the market because like you don't want to pay AJ Brown? I don't know.
The
Talk to
thing
me.
is, like, I understand why, because I had this argument when the Tyreek Hill move happens. Like, it's like, oh, you can replace wide receivers. It's like I can understand you want to replace wide receivers. I think most wide receivers can be replaced. Like, I'm not going to argue it, but I don't think a guy that has certain qualities can be replaced. Like, why can people just not accept, for the love of everything, that Ryan Tannehill is a quarterback that needs goddamn help on that roster? He's not going to win you a championship by himself. Hell, when they made the AFC title game, it wasn't because of him. It was because of Derrick Henry. And this is why. See, here's my thing with the AJ Brown situation, Chris. I think Tennessee needs to wait because here's why. Because Derrick Henry, what is his health going to be throughout this whole 17 game regular season? Because for years, Derrick Henry, we've talked about how amazing he's been and how he's been a big deal for Tennessee. And let's be real here, the only reason they've had a lick of success the last couple seasons is
Yeah.
Derrick Henry.
Yeah.
If for some reason you are in the camp that Derrick Henry is not the number one proponent as to why the Tennessee Titans have actually been winning the last couple years, kindly leave and never return, ever. Because that is some of the dumbest things I've ever heard. Listen to Derrick Henry's just carries the last couple seasons. 2019, he had 303 carries for 1,540 yards. 2020, 378 carries for 2,027 yards. This season, in only 8 games, really 7.5 because that 8th game he got hurt, in 8 games, 219 carries, 937 yards. He would have eclipsed 400 carries. He probably would have gotten close to 2,000 yards again. Like, it's not even close what Derrick Henry's meant. But the thing is that remember when Derrick Henry got his contract, Chris, it was a deal that it was good, but the guarantees in the later years weren't a lot. So it's a situation where if Tennessee feels the need to, they could cut ties with Derrick Henry. Now, I don't think they should. I also don't think they should cut AJ Brown or trade him. But the problem is that they ended up having to pay Ryan Tannehill real quarterback money. If Ryan Tannehill takes a team-friendly deal, which he could have, again, I know I said I'm someone who wants guys to get the bag, but Ryan Tannehill already got paid before the Titans ended up giving him his new contract. He got paid by the Dolphins. If Tannehill had taken a better deal, then they wouldn't have to worry about this. Then yes, they could pay AJ Brown easily. But the problem is that they've looked at the roster the last couple of years and they feel that they have to cut guys for various reasons. They cut what's his name, Adoree Jackson, and he ended up being on the Giants. I did not understand that in any way, shape, or form. They there's also a player or two on defense that I know they're gonna have to pay next season if I'm not mistaken. Jeffrey Simmons, I think. This offseason they have to pay Harold Landry. Like there are contracts that have been coming up on this team, and some guys they've had to just let go. Who was it a couple of years ago? Conklin on the offensive line. They let him go to Cleveland. Like it's really a touch and go issue to me because I'm a value person. Like I agree with trying to get guys in at good value deals, and I'm a firm believer in you can get guys in the draft that could be immediate impacts. But I think you're putting way too much faith in yourself if you think you could just take any receiver out of the second, third, fourth round, and you can always turn them into a guy who can replace AJ Brown. Because AJ Brown wasn't. I don't think he was a first round pick if I'm remembering correctly. Like he was a later round draft pick because Corey Davis was the first round pick on that team when they were there together. So I look at AJ Brown. I think the work he's put in. I know he hasn't had the big receiving season yet, like a 1,300-yard one or something like that. But it is obvious when he's out there on the field, he's only an aide to Ryan Tannehill. And if they want to give him up, maybe you could find a pretty good receiver. I think this year's draft class would be the draft to try to find that like next good receiver for yourself. But it doesn't make sense to me to want to get rid of AJ Brown when I think it's very clear you need to help support Ryan Tannehill. Taking away a weapon from him is not good. So I think in this case, I think the Titans actually have to just take the risk and maybe losing him because I don't think I like if you want to trade AJ Brown, okay, but you're going to make your team worse. Let's be real here. When you lose a star player, you make your team worse. Like your team is going to get worse if you trade away AJ Brown. And you may not feel it in one game, you may not feel it in 2 games, but you're going to feel when Ryan Tannehill has to throw the ball and he doesn't have a great wide receiving option to throw it to. And Derrick Henry's going to get hella tired.
You know, we're talking about capitalizing on what Ryan Tannehill could give you from this point on. I think, given what happened to Derrick Henry, you have to capitalize on what Derrick Henry can give you right now. Because also, let's not forget, dude, running backs wear out, man. And I feel like, do we like how many more seasons of like Derrick Henry prime, which is what we've had like the last 2 or 3 seasons? How much of those do we have left, right?
Well, we don't
And
know. Some people would think this
exactly,
could be the
that's
last year because he's 28 years old, which
yeah.
it's not really that old, but for a running back like 28, you might as well be Tom Brady's age.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. You age a little, like, you age more. But, like, exactly. You have to capitalize on that. And I don't know. I don't know what the Titans are thinking. They seem like a decent organization from an outsider's perspective. I mean, you could speak on that more so than I can. But I don't think they'll trade him. I just think there's smoke because of the whole wide receiver, what wide receivers are making lately, and his contract situation is up, and just the Titans kind of being like in that purgatory state, even though they had a decent year, but they got knocked out by the Bengals, which is kind of a big L for them, given the standards. But yeah, I mean, and in terms of Metcalf, this one's interesting because like Seahawks are clearly in a rebuild, but DK is how old is DK? 24?
He's around AJ Brown's age, yeah, like
Yeah,
24,
like
25.
I don't understand. I feel like I understand like when you're a rebuilding team, you accumulate as many draft picks as possible, and I feel like they could get a decent, offer for DK Metcalf, but I don't know, man. Like if you have a young wide receiver there, why can't he just be like your one of your main building blocks? Is it because you don't want to pay him? I just and I understand the scenario of like not wanting to pay him like from your end, Jurg. Like is DK Metcalf worth the money? Maybe not, but I just think like are you gonna tear it all down? I do think it's very important to have like an enticing piece for like whoever they
Right.
could get. Like if you get like a young quarterback, not Drew Lock. Let's stop that. We're not. But if they stumble upon a Malik Willis,
Right.
wouldn't it be nice for him to have
Yeah.
a DK Metcalf to throw to?
It would. I
Like,
think this is what it could be, Chris, and this is one of my gripes with owners, and this is why it always boggles my goddamn mind whenever people decide to side with the owners whenever
mhm.
CBA stuff comes up, or the organization when a player wants stuff. Like, um, they don't want to pay you if they're not good enough. But then when the team is successful and they need to start making cuts, they also still don't want to pay you. So when the f can you get paid? Like this is why I'm on DK's side. Like I hope DK Metcalf gets paid by somebody. I want him to get paid by somebody. Would it be me if I had the choice? No. But I'm also being real here and be like, you know what, DK, you deserve it. Someone's gonna pay you. It's just not gonna be me. Maybe Seattle's having that mindset. Like who knows what the hell's going on with that organization? They're like, I think for a while Seattle's kind of been on the downturn between general manager and look, I love Pete Carroll, but he should have retired. I don't understand why he's still there. I really, really don't. I like being there. Let's be real here. Let's call it what it is. Let's call a spade a spade. Seattle's going to be a rebuilding bad team this year, and because of that, like, I don't get why he's still there. Like, DK, like you said, would be the perfect piece, but do they want to pay for a guy as much as they're probably going to have to pay him if they're not going to be good? And this is my gripe with teams because I literally just laid it out. Sometimes they don't want to pay you when you're bad. Sometimes they don't want to pay you when the team's doing good and they need to make sure they keep winning. So when the hell can I get paid? Like, that's the catch
Yeah.
22 here. And they just need to make that decision. I'm with you ultimately. Again, if it wasn't me, if it was me, I might think of it differently. But from this perspective, if you want a quarterback to do good early in their career, just have a good weapon there to help the kid out. Like whether it's Malik Willis or Matt Corral, or if they end up getting like Desmond Ritter in the second round, like just help out the young quarterback you're bringing in. Like not every quarterback can come in and be Justin Herbert and Joe Burrow. Like some guys need more around them to put up better numbers. That's just a fact. Not every quarterback can be Aaron Rodgers or Pat Mahomes.
Yeah, that's true. But also, like now that I think about it, like this draft doesn't have a Jamar Chase, but there's a lot of really good wide receivers. So I guess you could find a replacement for DK. I mean, look, speaking from a Jets fan, they have been in the market, and like there has been smoke that they're just like, oh, they're interested in AJ Brown, they're interested in DK Metcalf. I mean, for a team like the Jets, and like rumors not confirmed that they offered the 10th pick for DK. Would you like? What do you think of like that type of deal? I mean, if I'm the Seahawks, I think I'd take that.
100%. I would take that deal if I was the Seattle Seahawks. So you're getting a first round pick back for a wide
A
receiver,
top
like
10
a
too.
top 10 pick nonetheless. Like, and here's the thing, Seattle, you got that, you did the trade with Denver, so you got
Yeah,
that first round pick. If you make that trade with the Jets, you can use those first round picks if you really want to pick one of these quarterbacks. You pick one of the quarterbacks there, and you pick the receiver with the other pick, or maybe you pick an offensive lineman. You
yeah,
trade down, get some more assets, get a solid receiver, maybe not one of the top two, but maybe the next guy, and then you get with one of the picks in your trade down, you make sure you get Desmond Ritter or Carson Strong. Like there are options here for Seattle to take. Like this, I don't want them to be so close minded about it, but at the same time, it's like time is running out here.
yeah, yeah. The
So
draft is soon.
you got to make this decision. Granted, it can happen on draft day for all we know. Like rarely do players get traded on draft day, but it could happen. Seattle needs to have a plan and a plan soon. They can't just go it because I think the GM is Schneider. I think Schneider will get he'll get fired pretty quickly if they don't have a real plan, at least to move forward this season.
Yeah, yeah. It's just they're gonna have to make a decision on Metcalf before the draft. Yeah, I think you're 100% right on that one. Like they have to, because like that's the best opportunity to be like, all right, this is what we're gonna do. We're gonna replace him. We're not gonna pay him. And I think for someone for like the Jets, they will. It's clear what they want to do, and they've struck out. In these deals for like these top tier targets, even though like it's only been Tyreek Hill from what like I understand. I mean, it'd be a big get for them, especially in a beefed up AFC East. So who knows what our Jets will do? Well, me and Dame's Jets. All right, let's move on over to the NBA world.
It's been a while.
Yeah, it has been a while. Well, playoffs are soon, and we'll definitely be talking about that. Speaking of smoke, there's a lot of smoke in the NBA world, man. And this is going to be an interesting discussion because I feel like this kind of like relates to both of us. The NBA it's a world in which every year there's a bunch of stars that are disgruntled, right?
Right.
and fans and such conspiracy theories. They always, the fans are always trying to like nitpick and be like, all right, well, if this happens, this player could request a trade because he's unhappy, even though they're 1 or 2 years into their contract. Ben Simmons kind of broke that barrier because he got traded with like 4 more years left in his contract, this and that. If this team gets eliminated in the first or second round, that star player wants to leave. There's a bunch of that. There's always that. And there's a certain somebody that falls into that category. And that certain somebody, in my opinion, is like, I think, one of the most likable stars in the NBA.
Alex Caruso.
Yes, exactly. So Caruso did sign at 3. No, I'm just joking. But yeah, one of the most likable players in the NBA on one of the most unlikable teams in the NBA. Just life imitating art there. Donovan Mitchell of the Utah Jazz. So, what's crazy? I preface this by saying, fans always come up with conspiracy theories about certain stars, being disgruntled
Right.
down the line. I was one of these fans like 2 years ago. I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, okay, Donovan Mitchell re-signed that contract extension. He signed the rookie extension, the max rookie contract extension. It was like 5 years for $190 million, but like I think
Why
that's
wouldn't he? By the way, like,
right. Exactly, they're gonna take it, but I think 160 is guaranteed because I think to get the full 190, you need to make the All NBA team. I think that's one of the incentives for that.
Yeah, it's the Rose Rule. You need to have like certain All NBA and
Yeah,
selections.
yeah, but like 160 million, like, wow, what's that anyway, right? Like, what? Jesus, but yeah, so he re-signs with the Jazz, and I'm like, I give this 2 or 3 years. I'll give this 2 or 3 years because I think from the get-go it was kind of known that Mitchell, like, it's Utah, they embrace him because, like, why wouldn't you embrace Donovan Mitchell? But like, he hasn't fully embraced Utah. He's done his part and like trying to like restructure the reputation Utah has with what he does as like his social activism, and I think Donovan Mitchell is great in trying to bring that into Utah.
Yep.
So he just seems like a great guy. Utah, on the other hand, like, I kind of understand why Donovan Mitchell never fully bought into Utah. So I was thinking to myself, I'm like, yeah, I'm giving this 2 or 3 years. Utah, we've talked about this on this podcast. Basketball, let's just strictly focus on basketball.
Yep.
This is a second semifinals bound team all the time.
Oh yeah.
It's always going to be that. They're kind of in a situation where it's hard for them to get stars, and it's going to be hard for them to pair a star with Donovan Mitchell. Rudy Gobert is not that guy. I understand how important he is, contrary to like the jokes that a lot of people make, and rightfully so. But like,
no, we understand how important he is.
Yeah.
We just don't want him to win Defensive Player of the Year for the 70th time in a row.
But the Jazz also need like that secondary scorer. And I love Mike Conley, but like, he's past his prime.
Yeah.
I did think it was the right move to get him at the time.
Yeah.
And I thought maybe this could be the move that kind of, surpasses that threshold for them. It hasn't.
He was coming off a career high too. Funny
exactly. So I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, it's hard because like no one wants to play for Utah, and they're kind of in this. They're kind of, like, they have assets to trade, but it's not enough to get a star that they could pair up with Mitchell in order to get past the second round threshold, right? It's just like Bogdanovich, no, you're not going to get anywhere with that. Like Clarkson, I don't think so. Clarkson's really good, and these are really good players, but like, these aren't like trade chips to like get a young and upcoming star that you could pair with Donovan Mitchell, right? They barely have any draft capital. I mean, I think they do have draft capital, but I don't know, they've actually traded a bunch of their draft capital, but also they're a really good team, so their draft capital isn't enticing enough to pair with like the Jordan Clarksons of the world or the Bogdanoviches of the world. The only trade asset I think they do have to kind of make a splash would be Rudy Gobert. Do they want to trade Rudy Gobert? I don't know. But irregardless, it's hard for them to kind of move past that semifinals threshold. And I'm like, they're not going to get past that threshold. I just think there's too many factors. And I just think their team, as constructed, isn't enough to beat the Titans of the West. They could be good in the regular season all they want, but it's just, we know how it goes in the playoffs. And I'm like, I'm giving this 2 or 3 years before he gets disgruntled. I think they're on schedule. I think I was correct that it's been like 2 years since he's signed that contract, or a year and a half. I'm not sure.
Feels like it, yeah.
Yeah. So I'm like, this is just playing out the way I expected it to. Utah kind of sucks as a place. Sorry, Utah people. Their basketball team, there's a ceiling to them. It's just, we kind of know that there's a ticking time bomb. And Donovan Mitchell seems to be the next player that fits the criteria of that disgruntled star. Now, this brings, and oh, by the way, so they're likely gonna be the fifth or sixth seed, I think, for the playoffs, which means they either get the Mavericks, who are playing really good basketball, or the Golden State Warriors, who, in my opinion, is a
Ooh,
championship contender. Either way, there's a possibility the Jazz get bounced in the first round. If they don't,
again.
they fulfill the prophecy and get bounced in the second round. Either way, it's the first or second round. It's inevitable. So, I'm hoping they get bounced in the first round. I really am. And even if I'm like speaking as a Knicks fan, I just hope they get bounced in the first round just so we can have like more things to talk about.
Well,
So the
right now they're
Furies can ramp
facing
up.
Luka. Right now they face Luka. We want Luka past the
Oh
first
yes,
round.
oh yes, oh yes. I'm be rooting for Luka to just go off, which we know he's capable of. The theories will ramp up, speculation will ramp up, smoke will be everywhere. I just think they're going to be at a crossroads here. I think they're going to be at a mutual understanding. It's so weird because like he's so young, man. But like these players come into the league so young that they hit their prime quick, and the
Right.
pressure for them to win is just that accelerates OD, and it's going to be the case here for Donovan Mitchell. And I don't know. I think it's going to happen this offseason. I don't think you could do another year there unless they like trade Rudy Gobert, which I don't know what their game plan is, but I think Mitchell's personally going to come up to them and be like, guys, I don't think this is working. I kind of want out. I understand the addition of Dwayne Wade was there to kind of help,
Right.
make Donovan Mitchell happy, which brings us to some factors here and possible location spots for him to get traded to. But I do think ultimately I do ultimately think this is the offseason in which he requests a trade. I think it's time.
May, may I interject really fast?
Sure. But don't go into the teams though that we
I won't.
think.
I won't. No. I won't do that. So I have a. You can go with the teams, but I don't know if this will be the offseason, just from my perspective, really fast. I don't know if this is going to be the offseason he requests the trade. I think this will be the offseason where he makes it clear to the organization internally that this is one last chance and that they need to do something to this roster. Because I think we all agree this team cannot beat the powers of the West. They cannot do it. And if they lose in the first round again, after last season, when they lost as the first overall seed in the second round to the Clippers with blowing a 25-point lead
Whew.
in game 6, that's not good. And maybe Mitchell even goes past it and he does request a trade. But I think this is the year where he makes it clear to the organization, do something this offseason to make us better, to get us finally past that point, or I will want to leave. And I think that's the point it's getting to, where Donovan Mitchell has had it up to here in that organization. And I really do think that we are getting extremely close and to the blowing point to stick a dynamite lighting and go into the rest of it, where Utah's going to lose their star player once again. And kind of like what you said, Chris, funny enough, like with Utah and stars, like you're right, all their star players they've ever had are drafted. No one goes to Utah. Like, I know LeBron said as a joke, but like
No, there was truth to that.
they're the last team you pick in 2K for the existence of the games. It's because you just don't want, like, there's nothing about Utah that makes you want to be there. There just isn't.
There's not, and like Donovan Mitchell's been there a while now. Like Donovan Mitchell is 5 years there now, and like it's just they're winning, so like that kind of like counters the cons of living in Utah. So like I understand that, but I mean to what you're saying, Jer, I don't know if he'll say I'll give you 1 year. I do like what you said there. I do think he'll go to management if he's not requesting a trade. I think he will say, "All right, guys, we need to do something here. We need to do something." I don't know what that is, but like we need to do something. The issue is, I think it goes back to my point. Like, what can they do besides trade Rudy Gobert? And there's been reports that there's a little bit of a conflict between those two. My issue is like, what does Rudy Gobert get you? And especially like you can't attach like crazy draft capital because they have traded a bunch away for Jordan Clarkson and such.
Yeah.
They're not good enough to have like a high pick. What does that get you? I just think they're a little stuck here, right? I don't know. And I only think Dwayne Wade could do so much. And I do think one of their owners, something Smith, is it Ryan Smith?
Might be.
He's one of the youngest owners in the NBA. He's youthful. I think like it's a very important. That's a very important type of guy to kind of lead the helm. To have a young and youthful
Yeah.
kind of front office leading the helm, I do think that's important for someone like Donovan Mitchell, and I do think that's appealing, right? I do think like owners suck a lot, but I do think if someone's a little bit on the youthful side, they
It's
kind of relate to the players a bit more.
he's 45 years old, by the
There
way,
you go.
right? If
There you go. Exactly. Which brings us to possible trade targets. I mean, trade locations for him. Possible teams that Donovan Mitchell could end up on. There's two. There's a bunch, but like these two are like have the most smoke. There's a bunch of teams that could trade for Donovan that could obviously like give a healthy package. Who could honestly offer a healthy package for him. That could probably like counter the two teams I'm about to mention. But in terms of just like what I think Donovan Mitchell is thinking, because I do think ultimately they'll like do what he asks. They'll be like, guys, could you like do me this favor and trade me to this certain team? I do think they'll oblige. I think they have too much respect for him. He's a great guy. It seems like he's always treated the organization nicely. So I think there's two teams. Again, not based on the strength of the trade packages they could offer, but I just think just based on what Donovan Mitchell's thinking. One, and this is where the Dwayne Wade factor comes into play, the Miami Heat. I just think he's been a Dwayne Wade fan. He claims he was a Heat fan growing up. I don't believe that. Sorry, Jurg, but it's that team.
We don't want bandwagoners here. We want real ones.
Yeah, I feel you. But the Dwayne Wade factor is interesting because, like, is Riley sending out some double agents here? Because that's what it kind of seems like. It's like, all right, well, we'll trade you to Miami. And it's like, you go to a winning franchise. You'll win there. I mean, again, I don't know if it'll win a championship. That's up to you to say, Jared, because you know them more than I do.
Oh, they will.
I mean, but they'll be a contender, I think. But we'll take you to Miami. You play in South Beach. You get all the money, no taxes. Weather's great. It'll be a winning culture. He fits the Heat culture, I feel like.
Oh, yeah.
Great coaching. That's your team right there.
Other real stars on that team.
Exactly.
A center that can shoot more than 5 feet away from the basket.
We'll talk about the trade packages like after this, but like and Pat Riley, Eric Spoelstra, it's such an ideal place for him. On the other hand, you have the Knicks, in my opinion, and I think the smoke is there. CAA, Leon Rose, New York. He grew up in New York. It's the aura of the Knicks. And of course the Knicks are going to be in this because they've been waiting for a star to kind of announce that they're disgruntled, or not announce, but like the rumors of like disgruntled stars, they've been waiting to jump on that. And I think this is it. He has ties to the Mets organization. You could pair him up with RJ Barrett. And especially if they get rid of Julius Randle, clean slate. And of course, just the Garden crowd. You get to play in the Garden for 41 games a year. If you make the playoffs, even better. So he has home ties to one team, and for the other team, it's like a perfect situation, right? I do think either situation he'd be satisfied with, to be honest. And I'm going to be realistic. It's likely that he would go to the Heat because I was thinking about him, like, can the Heat, do they have a more enticing offer than the Knicks? I think the Knicks would have more draft capital than the Heat.
For sure.
But which, I don't know, it depends on what Utah wants to do. But the Heat could sign and trade Tyler Hero and also attach Duncan Robinson, I believe. And they might have to give up Kyle Lowry because Jimmy's going to be making $50 million in a few years. Bam's making a lot. Yeah. And then Donovan Mitchell would obviously come in. That would be their big three. Is that what it would have to happen for contracts?
I think so. I mean, yes, you sign and trade Hero. Duncan, his contract helps make it closer to a match. Like, it would suck to give up Lowry because even though he's missed time this year, like, he is the ideal point guard for this team. It's tough, but yeah, if you want to get a Donovan Mitchell, that's probably going to have to be the trade. I feel bad because I'm sending Kyle Lowry to Utah for a year, which, like, I don't think he deserves that. And I'm also sending Tyler Hero to Utah.
Hey, Utah gets their white boy.
But hey, man, Tyler Heroes love the South Beach culture. Like you're talking to a guy who loves Miami.
Oh my God, him going from Miami to Utah? Oh, he would hate it. But he would get like his money though. At least
I'm saying this right now. His I don't know what their technical relationship status is. His girl's not moving to Utah. Let's just say that he's not gonna see his family for a lot of the year. Let's just be real. She's not going from Miami to Utah. Let's just keep it. Let's keep it 100 right there.
Right.
No, yeah. If that would be like, I think your point is this: if Utah wants the picks, you take the Knicks. If Utah wants the players, you go with Miami. I think that's what has to happen. Like it, and you said it, Chris. It's all about what do you want. Do you still want to see if you could be a play-in team? Because then I think the Heat's pieces are more of a play-in style. If you want the potential upside, you go with the Knicks. All due respect, Chris, Tyler Hero is better than Emmanuel Quickly and Obi Toppin.
Well, no, but I agree. But like, it also depends on like how does Utah view Tyler Hero? Because is he the guy? Like, it would have to be a sign and trade, which means you would sign him to like what, like the rookie max extension?
If you sign and trade a player, I think the max you can do is a 4 year. Because when Jimmy Butler was
Yeah,
signed and trade, the max that they could do was a 4 year deal.
yeah. So it depends. Like, because at that point Tyler Hero would be their guy for Utah. Like he would be like their guy. Well, based on what they would pay him,
Oh, for sure.
that'd be their guy.
You get the most
And
touches by far.
and then I look at from the Knicks. So they would offer a plethora of picks. It would have to be IQ. It would have to be Obi. Or they could be interchangeable if they want Quentin Grimes or something. Again, it's not as enticing as the Heat offer, but
There's more picks and like
exactly. And Utah, like you said before, like their star talent has always been it's always stemmed from picks, and they are very Utah. As much shit as we give them, they're a good organization. They do draft really well.
Yeah, John Stockton, Karl Malone, Darren Williams, Gordon Hayward,
Yeah,
Donovan Mitchell. They
they
draft all stars.
they find gems. They find gems from like later rounds as well. So it depends. This is all in Utah. I do think those are the two likely scenarios. Let's take our hats aside. Let's take our bias hats aside. What do you think happens with Donovan? If he were to get traded, where do you think he ends up?
Knicks.
Yeah.
I don't think Miami looks at Donovan Mitchell, and I don't think they see him as a very, very significant upgrade over Tyler Hero. Because
Really?
I'm telling you, man, when Tyler Hero was drafted and when they saw the work he was putting in, the organization put the belief in him and they told him, and it's internally felt that he can become not on the Devin Booker tier, but maybe just below Devin Booker's tier.
Yeah.
Devin Booker-esque. And let's keep it real here. 20 points per game this season. He's playing really well.
Six man of the year right there.
He is if he doesn't, I swear to God, if he doesn't win 6 man of the year, I'm gonna.
Nah, who else would win it?
I do. The NBA voters are so anti-Miami. I'm not even joking. I'm not even joking. The fact that LeBron didn't win unanimous MVP the year that we had a 27-game winning streak, that Spoelstra didn't win Coach of the Year when we had the best record in the league. Which, real quick, by the way, like, I love Monty Williams. If he wins it, cool. But if you don't want Eric Spoelstra to win Coach of the Year, don't throw that bullshit at me that Monty Williams should win because he had the best record. Because Eric Spoelstra had the best record in the league, and he didn't get the award. So don't tell me the best record gets the Coach of the Year, because guess what? That's not always the case. So I don't want to hear that in regards to that. So those voters are so anti-Miami that I don't trust them to just outright give it to Tyler Hero. He should get it. Baby Goat is the 6th man of the year, but I don't trust the voters. They have the fact that Bam was not top 3 defensive player of the year voting last year. Fuck him. So I really could care less. I think Donovan Mitchell to the Knicks made more sense. He has the connection there with Worldwide West and CAA.
Right.
I think they have more picks again. This is the thing with the whole Harden to Miami deal. Miami people always love to make the joke that they didn't want to trade Tyler Hero for James Harden. It would have taken more than that. The Nets had to trade, 6 or 7 first-round picks in that deal they ended up dealing away. Miami doesn't have full control of their own first until like 2026.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Stop saying Miami can make these deals, people. They can't. So Donovan Mitchell, it would take more than Tyler Hero, Duncan Robinson, and Kyle Lowry. It would take several first, which they don't have. Unless Utah wants to take a chance on like a 5th grader with taking a pick in the year like 2030. like what are we doing out here, man? What the hell are we doing? Like, no. If they want the most immediate picks and if they want a couple guys that maybe they can make something out of, Donovan Mitchell in New York.
But I do think Donovan Mitchell, if he tells Utah management, I want Miami, they're going to have to take whatever Tyler Hero and Duncan Robinson and like a few swaps might be enough. Or at that point, I don't even know at that point.
I don't know when we could swap.
Oh, Jesus, that too? Oh, man.
Because the thing is that this first round pick rule, it's like you're not supposed to trade picks.
Right.
I think the thing is that there are pick swaps, but I think the thing is that some of Miami's non-consecutive years are already pick swapped. So I don't know.
Yeah. It's just it's based on Utah if they wanted to trade for Tyler Hero. But you're right, Jurg. I remember the whole Miami, like the Harden to Miami thing, and like they were very hesitant to. This is before Duncan Robinson re-signed. They were very hesitant to. Well, more so Tyler. They were hesitant to move Tyler Hero,
Because they
And
wanted to see if he could take that next step.
yeah, and I think he has. Like I think his second year was asked for like I mean that was the pandemic year of the NBA, which was last season. So like I'll give him some leeway because he's picked it up the third year. So I assume if like things are a little bit more.
Also, to be fair, like Chris, I was telling you during that whole time, like they don't have the assets to trade for Harden. The Rockets got back 7 firsts in that deal, like six or 7 firsts, 3 regular, 3
With
picks.
swaps, yeah.
What part of Miami didn't have 6 firsts do people love to ignore?
The thing is, bro, it's just I don't know. If I was the Rockets, like I would value Tyler here a little bit more than like some late round picks.
I mean,
It's
but at the end of the day, they didn't clearly. Like
well, it's because he
they
was having a I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what their view is for. But either way, Miami, I thought they were smart enough not to trade Hero for Harden. I was
oh,
like,
for
no.
sure.
I'm like, well, I wouldn't trade for Harden either, man. Like I know Harden's Harden, but I don't know how he would have like fit in the Miami Heat culture. I don't know how he would have fit next to dudes who like don't take shit like Jimmy Butler and Eric Spoelstra. Um, yeah, it's and who knows how he would have like done in the Miami like in South Beach, bro. It's just mad distracting, especially for Harden. So
He's
I'm with you
notorious
on
for
that
having
point.
bad games in Miami too. Like people love forgetting that.
Yeah, that's true. But I think he goes to Miami. Like it's crazy that we're both picking each other's teams. You know, it's just I think he goes to Miami. Because Pat Riley's Satan. Um, I think it also depends on how the Heat finish this year.
Oh no! If they lose in the second round or first, they're making that deal.
They're making the deal. 3, the Dwayne Wade factor. I think that's a double agent if I ever saw one. I love D Wade, but I'm like,
And D Wade sells his Utah ownership and then comes back to Miami.
yeah, and just the people of Utah will just. But then again, I think D
They might
Wade.
actually launch an investigation of that.
Yeah, you guys would lose even more picks. But like, again, if anyone knows D Wade's value, I think D Wade. If anyone knows Tyler Hero's value, I think D Wade would be like, yeah, we should get him. You know, for in this trade package, I think he's worth it.
Yeah,
But
wink,
yeah,
wink, nudge.
who knows? Overall, let's just hope Utah loses so we could actually, hope these talks become serious. Hope Donovan Mitchell gets traded because it'll be something for us to talk about that could get views. But yeah, let's move on over to our final talking point.
It's gonna be quick.
Frank Vogel. Well, the Lakers are officially eliminated from the play-in tournament. Frank Vogel, according to Bleacher Report, is rumored to be fired after the season ends. We'll probably know as soon as the last game, finishes. Uh, we'll see the Woj or Shams tweet saying Vogel, Lakers have fired Frank Vogel.
They're gonna pink slip him as soon as
Pink slip him.
0-0.
Writings on the wall. I think it's obvious he's gone. I think we could have made this prediction like a few weeks ago, to be honest. I didn't think we needed to they missed the play-in officially for Frank Vogel to kind of like be rumored to be out. I thought he was going to be gone regardless. Yeah, I think this is true. I don't know. How long has Frank Vogel been the coach for them? 2 years?
Well, yeah.
Yeah, so like he had
No, 3. This is 3 because the year they won the chip, they finished off.
Yeah,
the
you're
last
right.
year
You're
in the
right.
chip, so 3
So
years.
I think you win the chip the first year. Second year you get derailed because LeBron and AD are out here and there. Third year with Russell Westbrook, it's just an absolute mess. So it's gotten like progressively worse. I don't know. It's always tough for me to evaluate coaches when it's a LeBron team because I never know like how good they are or how much of it's like LeBron mostly. I do think Frank Vogel's a decent coach. I don't think he's as good as he was with like Indiana, like because I thought he was an elite coach when he was with the Pacers, but then I don't know. I think he's a decent coach though. This whole Russell Westbrook thing made it even worse for him. I don't know if we'll get another head coach job in the NBA. I'm not sure. I don't know where the Lakers move on from here. I don't know who they would hire instead of Vogel. Yeah, it's just gonna be tough because there's so many questions. But I guess Frank Vogel's like the first domino to fall. But I do think he'll get fired as soon as the regular season ends. And in terms of like who are they gonna replace him with? I'm not sure. Maybe you have some names in mind, Jurg, and
So
then we can rebound off them.
it's been really weird. So let me double check back of like the rumored names, but one of the names that I saw rumored was actually Quinn Snyder of the
Yes.
Utah Jazz.
How does that work?
I think the way it would work is that if Utah gets bounced early again, I think Utah would fire Snyder, and then that would free him up to be the Lakers coach. I think that's ultimately what it would be because I think if Quinn Snyder, like it would be another year of the first round exit, another year of a playoff disappointment. I could see Utah pulling the trigger there, thinking that maybe it would placate Donovan Mitchell for like a week, and then he would just sign with the Lakers. And like for Quinn Snyder, you kind of almost want that at this point if you're him. Like all due respect, but I think he'd be not a bad candidate for LA because here's another rumor. Allegedly, AD and Russ want to run it back with that big.
Oh God.
Yeah, it's not pretty. So I think let me double check real quick, but like just think of the Quinn Snyder thing first. Like just him as a coach, Chris. Do you think that'd be good for the Lakers?
I think that would be great for the Lakers. I think Quinn Snyder's one of the best coaches in the NBA, man, and I like him a lot. I think he would be an upgrade over Frank Vogel. It depends. Like if, for example, if the Lakers kind of like go on this pseudo rebuild, I don't even know what it's called. Like say for example, like I mean, I don't know what to make of like the LeBron rumors at this point. I don't know. I think LeBron respects Quinn Snyder more so than he does Vogel. I think he would like do decent. They're gonna have to make a lot of moves, but like I do think if they get rid of Russ, if they somehow get rid of Russ and they get Quinn Snyder, I think that's actually a successful offseason for them. I think he's a world's better coach than Frank Vogel, man.
Do you want to hear one more name, by the way? My bad to interrupt, but I think you will get a good reaction.
I know what it is.
Doc Rivers.
Yeah. So, but isn't he rumored to go to the Jazz?
So here's the thing. Doc Rivers, the Philadelphia 76ers head coach, is another active bench leader being mentioned by league personnel as a Lakers candidate. His tenure in Philadelphia has also come into question as of late, spurred by team president Daryl Morey's deadline acquisition of Harden and the mounting speculation about a potential reunification with Harden's former Rockets head coach Mike D'Antoni.
Oh my God.
A lot of people have been theorizing since the Harden deal happened because it's not just Daryl Morey there. Apparently, there are other people a part of the Philadelphia front office that were actually in Houston when Harden was there. So a lot of people are linking that Mike D'Antoni could end up being the new 76ers head coach. And I think Doc Rivers, if he were to leave, if it's a tumultuous split, because let's be real, that's what this would be, him to the Lakers actually makes sense. I think it'd be an upgrade over Frank Vogel. I think Doc Rivers getting to work with LeBron finally would be something entertaining. He'd be back in Los Angeles. He's had success in LA, technically speaking, and it would be something to see. I know he's been rumored to Utah, but if they don't fire Quinn Snyder, if they're not quick enough with it, and then again, although Utah's going to have probably a lesser run than Philly, so it really just all depends. I think the thing is we need to see what happens in the playoffs with all this.
Yeah.
If the Philadelphia 76ers make the conference finals, like they still could, but you cannot fire Doc Rivers and it seems clean that it's clear you wanted D'Antoni there the whole time. If they somehow make the conference finals and still fire Doc, so there's that. I think whereas Utah, that would happen quicker. Because I think Utah would be out faster. And would the Lakers move that quickly or would they wait is the question. Because I think as of now, there's only one other team. I mean, technically, if Utah fires Snyder, they're looking. But I think the only other team looking for a head coach right now permanently is Sacramento. Because I think Alvin Gentry.
Right.
And let's be real here. Would Doc Rivers or Quinn Snyder want to go to Sacramento? No. Careers go there to die. So I think the Lakers, we'll say this. They have the pick of the litter on who their next head coach could be. I think we can agree on that.
Yeah, I agree. I don't like it, but also I do think the Snyder rumors are a little bit far fetched. I think there's no reason to fire Quinn Snyder if you're the Jazz. Like they're a smart organization. He's a great coach. Why would you fire him? Like even if you lose Donovan Mitchell, there's literally no reason to like fire Quinn Snyder, right? And Doc Rivers just seems like he just seems like the next Lakers head coach. I think Doc Rivers is one of the most overrated coaches in the history of the NBA. Just go to LA. It just fits because like you have LeBron there, so you wouldn't need a big genius mind to be at the helm of like the head coaching. He just seems like a future Lakers coach to me, Doc Rivers. Sacramento might even I could see him going to Sacramento because they would maybe they want like a good name. They want a big name as like the head coach because yeah, in terms of like name value, like he's probably the biggest name.
I'm just saying, if I'm Doc Rivers, if Sacramento, if you better pay me like a player if you want me to coach.
Yeah, I agree, but I could see Doc Rivers getting fired though. The D'Antoni to Philly thing makes a lot of sense. I could see that actually a lot. Mike D'Antoni always be getting jobs here. This head coaching carousel just went all over the place, man. Just. Ultimately, I'll say this. I don't think Quinn Snyder gets fired. Frank Vogel is definitely getting fired. I think Doc Rivers might get fired, but if Doc Rivers does get fired, he'll go to the Lakers as opposed to the Jazz. I just think it just makes more sense. I just think it makes more sense. And in terms of Frank Vogel getting another job, I'm not sure. I don't know who would want him. He'd have to go like the assistant coach
He'd
route.
become an assistant. Yeah, he would become an assistant.
Yeah. Do you think who do you think the next Lakers coach would be? Gun to your head.
Jesus, gun to my head. Shoot me, please. No. Gun to my head. If I had to take my guess, I think Doc Rivers. I think it just makes sense. I think the connection to LeBron is there. I think just a lot of factors would lead to Doc Rivers being the next head coach for the Los Angeles Lakers. If Tyronn Lue was actually in fear of getting fired, I would actually probably say Tyronn Lue. But I think the Clippers are going to keep him because I think no Kawhi the entire year. No.
Why would you trade Why would you fire Tyronn Lue?
No, but I'm just saying, like, only if there was a threat of him being fired.
Yeah.
But I think because of this season, they're still in the play-in with zero Kawhi the whole year.
He's
with
been
Paul
brilliant.
George being out like a third of the season. I got to give Tyronn Lue a lot of credit. His clipboard was more than just pass Bron ball, let him do things.
I agree.
He's actually proven he could be a real coach, and you got to give him credit for that. But yeah, he'd be the only other guy. But because there's no threat of him being fired, I would say Doc Rivers to the Lakers makes the most sense. He's a LeBron guy.
Yeah, we're in agreement on that one. Whew! What a week!
What an episode!
My God. See what happens without Dame? Shit happens. Good shit happens. But yeah, that'll do it for this week. Jurg, my man, always a pleasure to talk sports with you, especially when it's solo. Just a bunch of stuff happened. Very fun to talk about. Next week, huge week. NFL mock draft round 1. We'll be having the 4 Titans on the show. Jurg, Dame, Justin, and Mystery Man X.
Yes.
It's gonna be fun. I have a good feeling about this one. It's gonna be real fun. Yeah. Jurg, where can they find us on the socials?
Guys, you already know you can find us at SomeWhat.Sports on Instagram. Like we've said before, it's been a little bit slow recently, but the draft is here, the mock is here. We're gonna post the update on who's picking when in regards to our picks, so that you guys can see. Once again, it was Justin got the first overall picks, Dame got the picks with number 2, Professor X got 3, and I got number 4. Chris is our amazing moderator, and we're just gonna have a ball of a time next week. You will be able to catch the pod here on YouTube once it is edited by our savant and posted. It, of course, you're listening to us now, Somewhat Sports on YouTube, and we just appreciate you guys so much for listening to us. Extra long episode this week. Neither of us really thought it was going to go this long, but hey, it was a crazy week, and we had a lot of fun. I think this was a supremely fun show. I always have fun whenever I get to talk with the guys. No Dame this week, miss you, Dame, but you know, once we get here next week, it's going to be just a fun time. And hey, man, if you joined us for this journey so far, we thank you so much. Next week is a massive week for us recording, and it'll be a big episode. So just thank you all for your support. Keep on comment, subscribing here. Keep on following us on IG, and we just appreciate every single one of you. A bunch of beauties that listen to us.
Sure. I want to know who those beauties are. But yeah, beautifully said as always, Jurg. Fun week. It was great to talk to you about this week, and hopefully next week. I mean, look, we're approaching NBA playoffs, so we got predictions there too as well. You know, so I think after the NFL mock draft, we might have to lean in towards NBA playoff predictions.
Yeah, and award predictions and all NBA teams.
Yes. And baseball's starting today, actually. Opening day today.
We didn't get a chance to do like a baseball season preview, so whoops.
Yeah. We'll check out Dame's article, Dame Sports. It's on WordPress. We might link him in the description. We'll see how I'm feeling. But yeah, to all the listeners, if you made it this far, we appreciate the shit out of you. And until next time, peace.
Take care.